here on the weekend of the, what is it, 13th, 14th? Yeah, something of that nature. 14th? So I'm out here to plant this bucket of trees, but I figured before I got started on that, because right now it's not ideal time to do so, I'm actually going to plant a lot of this stuff right around here because it's more of the partial shade and not needing to get pounded on by the weather or the sun. And as you can see, the sun is up about right here right now, and I'm about 2:33 o'clock. So from now on out, the sun is going to actually be falling back down that way, and this all in here is going to get some partial shade throughout the rest of the day. Now over there is where the sun comes up, so your morning sun all through to about 2-3 o'clock is going to be hitting in this area. So ideally you want to put things that are not needing full sun, something that can be pounded by the sun, essentially like those mulberry trees. You would ideally want them out there exposed to the sunlight all day. Things like cherry trees, which I have in that bucket over there, you ideally want to have not getting pounded on by the sun. So it's been a while since I've walked out here with you guys. I wanted to leave a couple of the failures, that way you can see. You know, these plum trees didn't seem to make it. This one actually has still got some life down in here. Oh, a praying mantis. See him? He's trying to hide, but there he is. Watch him. He'll try to attack my finger. Plow. So I'm gonna let him do his thing. Too bad he's over here hanging on the not too happy tree. But anyways, this is one plum tree that doesn't seem to have made it. This one over here definitely has not made it. This guy right here, as you can see, I went ahead and snapped some sticks. If you got a part of the branch that will break like so, then you know this thing is dead. If it just snaps automatically, then it's a goner. Once you have some play to it, say if it bends kind of like a fishing pole, then you've still got some life to it, most likely. That doesn't always mean the case, but it's most likely the case. Now this is a live plum tree. This is what those two are supposed to look like, which, you know, this is the first year. It's done pretty good. It's not, you know, super spectacular, but as you can see, I've added some compost to it in order to help it do its thing. This pear tree seems to be doing its thing. Once again, has only been here, I don't know, not 6 months, so it's doing as expected. You've got one over there as well. Now this is your stone fruit tree. Part of these branches have not liked being out here in the sun. Parts of them actually died off, like this one here. So that was the Alberta peach, and then this guy here, the gold dust peach. So both of those are goners on this tree, but this one here is still hanging in. The Independence nectarine, the royal apricots, and the Santa Rosa plum are all still alive and kicking. So hopefully they'll stay doing that. This is something that I had recently planted. This is called a placodomum, and it's essentially a cross between a peach, a plum, and a apricot. So essentially what they do is they breed these trees together, cross-pollinating one another, and plant the seeds and see what you get. Over the course of time, you actually get some decent stuff. Now the vast majority of the time you're going to get some nasty taste and crap. That's why you want to tend to graft fruit trees whenever you know you have a delicious variety, because you may have 1 out of 100 seeds that will give you something that is a palatable fruit. You plant all those seeds, then you end up with not shit to eat. So these guys right here actually were one of those creations, concoctions, you know, crossbreeds that actually turned out to be a edible, delicious fruit. So I planted 3 of them. The thing is, they need to cross-pollinate with apricots or even the weird plums like plumcots and nectarplums and blueberries. Those couple of things I believe also can cross-pollinate with these. So I've got all of my stone fruits essentially all around me. So my nectarplums over here, this is a cross between a nectarine and a plum. So it's actually got a little bit of a red color to the leaves until about this time of the year, whenever it starts turning green. It's very similar to a Japanese maple, how it's red, and then around the fall time it actually starts turning green. So these are the nectar plums. I planted 3 of those along in here. Once again, cross-pollinate with my plicotum and then my 4-in-1 stone fruits, which has got the plums, the nectarines, the apricots, and the peaches, of course. So this is one that actually everything seems to be doing like it should. You can see the leaves are already starting to change because it is getting, you know, to be late September. And oddly enough, leaves are starting to tell me that the fall is coming early this year. It's still hot, but there's some weather changing. I think that's why all these hurricanes and tornadoes and all this fun stuff is happening. Once again, this one's looking a little sad. Looks like the Santa Rosa plum may give me a little something down here. But for the most part, this is now just a peach tree because I got 2 separate kinds of peaches on that one. Which doesn't hurt my feelings. You guys know Waffles is over there in the shade, but you guys know that this right here, my Indian peach that I showed you guys from before, I'm gonna end up using that as a rootstock, and essentially as time progresses graft a little bit of all of those goodies onto this tree. So I'm gonna have that tree and then all of those essentially taking care of my stone fruit needs. As time progresses, I'll get a few more like blueberries and plumcots and those couple of things that I don't have out here yet. But for the most part, yeah, that's pretty much what I'm doing stone fruit wise. Now, I got all these blueberries here. We'll get on that in just a minute. Let me mention what all these weeds are. So essentially, I left this be so you guys can see here. These are my maypops. Now, I wanted to have my maypops something to grow up. So I, for the most part, left all of this stuff here. You can see them growing up the peach trees. Those are pretty gnarly maypops there. Oh. Well, that ain't worth a shit. My boot just came undone. Well, unfortunately, I'll have to not wear these boots, and I was wearing these boots. That way I cannot get eaten alive by the ants, but I am going to worry about that momentarily. For the most part, I'll just leave those on for now. Now, these are my blueberries. They kind of been hammered by the sun. They don't look super happy, as you can see, but they are still going. Yeah, they'll come back and do their thing beginning of the year once it cools down. It's just so hot, and these guys, I think ideally you want to leave them in situations like that. See where the sun isn't going to be beating down, like I said earlier, over in there. I'm going to plant my blueberries that I have coming to me in October. I'm going to do exactly that. I'm going to plant them along the wood line and closer to where they're not directly in the sun, because these are essentially being hammered by the sun at the hottest point of the day, which obviously they don't seem to care for that too much. I did lose one. The Vernon, one of the Vernons bit the dust, but yeah, I'm coming up on the Jerusalem artichokes. You guys can see how those have progressed. This is healthy Jerusalem artichokes. Okay, Jerusalem artichokes. This right here is the flowers of them, which will obviously help your beneficial insects. But yeah, these right here are essentially what you can plant in between each of your crops, each one of your trees. It's not going to bother anything to have Jerusalem artichokes planted in between each tree. This spot right here, I ended up just planting them, making them Jerusalem artichokes, because I didn't have much of anything to plant in here yet, except for, you know, my pomegranates. But as you can see, this is the pomegranate that I started from seed, from my grandma's property, straight over that way on the other side of the property. Probably about 400 or 500 acres on the other side of that terrace. So yeah, probably I'd say, yeah, about 400 or 500 acres on the other side of that terrace. So total maybe 1,000, 1,200 yards that way. But all of these guys are starting to come in and do their thing. There went a grasshopper trying to eat up on my leaves. Now one of these are dead. This one has still got life into it. It was actually when I scratched it earlier. Yeah, see, it's still got some green in there. So for whatever reason, this one is still not wanting to come out of dormancy, but the other ones have, except for one dead one. So far I've lost the two plums, the one blueberry, and then one of these pomegranates. This guy right here has actually died because I remember what I was telling you about the breaking of the sticks? This one here isn't breaking, but I've already checked all the way down. That one I'm positive is dead. So my Russian pomegranates, they're doing decent. These guys here, got a few varieties of Russian pomegranate. That one is a Shur Anor. That one is the Slaskis, or Salavasky. This one has some kind of other name I can't pronounce. This one here is the Kazan. But I'll show you this over here. This is kind of cool. Once again, here's some maypops. I ended up letting that grow and do its thing because it wouldn't hurt my feelings if maypops went all over the place. Once again, that's a maypop. That's just a briar. I'll probably cut him down. And then you got these couple of China berry bushes. Then mimosa tree. But right here, we've got a loquat. So this is a gold nugget loquat. I actually got this one from Lowe's, so it's not super special variety, but apparently the gold nuggets are the best loquats you can get. Now I have it kind of over here in this woods. Once again, it doesn't need to be out there in that nasty hard sun. So it's in a spot where it's going to get the morning sun, but by the time it's 2-3 o'clock, no more sun. Now this one is still out there to where it does get hit by the sun when it's hot. Now see how this one is putting, I've only had this out here a week now. These are all new leaves. See how they're shooting out the new leaves, and it actually looks kind of perky. These leaves look, you know, this is a healthy looking tree. This one over here is drooping. So the leaves are indicating that this thing needs water. This is kind of sad of a tree. See these new leaves here? They're actually dying off because there's not enough water for them to feel like, okay, I want to put this energy in these new leaves. No, it's trying to hold off and save energy for these leaves that are already here. So I'm going to make sure that I water that before I go, but ideally you don't want these loquats to be in the direct sun. You want them to kind of be in a spot where they're going to be out of direct sun by, say, 3-4 o'clock. Now, I'm going to go and check on a couple of the other things. It wouldn't hurt my feelings if those cloud covers came in. Stayed that way. See, my sun is up there. It's covered by a nice cloud, and it just made this wind start blowing in. It gave me some shade, some beautiful wind. Oh, it's feeling good. One thing I'll show you, I got this sage all over the place. Now, one way you know that this is sage, when you turn it over, it's got this fuzzy white appearance to it on the underneath of the leaf. Now, this is just wild sage, that California sage that you generally will get for saging, if you will, burning away evil spirits. That's going to be, you know, bigger leaf. The California sage is generally what you get, but that's some nice wild sage, give you the same purpose. But this guy right here is the Pawnee pecan that I planted this year. You can see that it's grown up quite nicely. It's well beyond 7-8 foot at this stage. That's the Choctaw over there, and oh, I spoke too soon here. Instantly getting hot again, but I've got actually my shade hat on. This is a cool hat that I've had since I was 16, but this patch I had since I was 14. I pretty much wore this hat out, so I ended up cutting the patch off and I stuck it on this hat that I got when I was 16, living in Reno, Nevada. I remember purchasing this thing from a head shop that I tricked them into believing that I was of age to go into. But because I didn't buy anything that I wasn't supposed to, I pretty much didn't have to worry about getting carded anyway, so, but I wasn't supposed to be in there. This was a mulberry tree. This is the Pakistani mulberry tree. I've already seen fruits on this thing. Oh shit. Looks like a wasp is making himself a home on my mulberry tree. Unless he's just sitting up there. There's a handful of them on there though. Maybe they're just hiding from the wind because I don't see a nest, but they are sitting there like, I'm about to fuck you up if you mess with me. There's a handful of them. There's 3 or 4. I'll let them do their thing because they don't eat mulberry bushes or trees, but they do eat shit that does fuck with mulberry bushes or trees. So they are welcome to stay. Either way, what I was going to say before I was so rudely interrupted by those fucking wasps is I've already seen mulberries on those things about 7-8 inches long, the size of my thumb. It's pretty exciting indeed. I am going to actually break us through to the water because it's pretty hot out here. I'm going to check on Waffles, encourage him to go and jump in the water if he hasn't done so already. I'm pretty confident he would have by now because it is hot out here. Hey Waffles, come here buddy. This right here is the passion flower. This is what's on those maypops that I just showed you. So those were turned into a maypop, but right now you've got a beautiful flower, and those flowers just are all over the place. Right now it's getting to the end of the season, so they're starting to die off, but I've got all kinds of things in here. You know, these right here are peanuts from the peanuts when they've planted this field over and over again. If you don't mow, you'll actually see peanuts grow up just like these. And then you can see all the maypops growing. But it's pretty exciting. I like stuff that I don't even have to plant. Like these guys here, I'm pretty confident that this is gonna do okay, these limes. So I'm gonna leave these limes here in the bucket for probably the first year just to get them acclimated to the area, make sure they're all good. But I'm going to plant that probably next year. These guys I'm likely going to plant while I'm here. Oh, that's even some new growth. That's pretty exciting, new growth off of there. These are the kiwis. I'm gonna plant these kiwis today, tomorrow as well. And those are just some ground cherries. All right, Waffles, come. let's go down to the creek. So this is built up a little bit. This is over here where I have my my camp set up. Whoop. As you can see, Waffles loves this creek. What's up, Waffles? Loves the creek. Ooh, that feels good. Feels good for the Waffles? Yeah. Oh, I got a little couple of fish over there Waffles is scaring away. Good job, feller. So this is where I take my bath and cool off and get my water to filter and all the good stuff. Obviously, it's also where Waffles does his thing. Now this water is fast moving. I mean, it's flowing through here good. I'm planning on damming it up there, but on my previous videos I've already explained about what's going on with that. That's something that's probably going to take place towards the end of the year. I've already pretty much got everything cleared out over there. So we'll go through the rest of the walkthrough. Now that I know Waffles is watered up and cool. Now this tree right here is likely where I'm going to plant my kiwis, right along here, and then have them grow up this tree. I'll probably attach some kind of like little plastic chicken wire type stuff, fencing, for them to just kind of climb right up. I haven't completely decided, but that's very likely what's going to happen. Let me go over the aronia berries real quick. So planted a bunch of these aronia berries. Aronia berries. This in here accidentally got mowed, but you can see they're pretty resilient. This is what got mowed over, but these guys are all coming back. It didn't kill them. So you can see it got mowed over. You've got stuff already sprouting back up. So, sorry Mr. Aronia Bush, I didn't mean to do that, or even have that done, because it wasn't me personally. But Aronia Bush, Aronia Bush, Aronia Bush. Not too bad after the first year. The first year you're mainly going to be setting roots. You're encouraging them to set roots. So potentially next year you're not going to have all of the wilting leaves and all of the above. Now this is actually a tree that I had planted last week along with those loquats, and it looks like it's needing to be watered as well. So this is getting the direct sun, and you can see how the leaves are not indicating that this is a happy tree. Okay, it's because one, I just planted this a week ago, so it hasn't gotten all of its roots established, and it's getting hammered by the sun. Now I was hoping that I was done with mid-90 weather by end of September, but we're still in the fucking mid-90s. So I'm gonna have to just water the fuck out of it while I'm here on the weekends, and hopefully that'll be good enough, because I'd very much like that tree to do its thing. So once again, these right here, ideally, they're not necessarily ideal for in the sun. I put it there because once it gets established, it'll be fine. But the mulberries kicked ass. Jujubes kicked ass. You know, the black locust kicked ass. Ooh, I got some vultures. Buzzards, one. Maybe something's dying. Either way, I got distracted. So jujubes, these things are looking amazing. Smaller apples, they're coming in, doing their thing. Glad to see that. planted a couple things in here, some squash and what have you. Hopefully it does what it needs to do, because it's a little fucking hot. Like again, I said I was hoping that the hottest weather was done, but unfortunately that's not the case. Here's some more Jerusalem artichokes. These one I planted later in the year, so they didn't get quite as tall, and they're a different source, so they may even be a different variety. One thing that I like to do is get stuff from different places, seeds, trees, what have you, in order to have a variety. That way they can cross-pollinate, what have you. Once again, here's another one. Here's China berry tree. I'll show you the good stuff. This is a pawpaw. That once again is a Jerusalem artichoke. Here's a fig. Here's a fig. Well, these are different varieties of figs. I think I got 4 different varieties of figs out here. Got another fig over there. This is the black locust. When I planted these were little sticks, maybe about this tall. You can see how strong of a tree this is already. Now black locusts have these gnarly ass spikes on it. Cool thing is, this is a legume, much like these peanuts right here. A lot of the times the legumes will tell you, hey, I'm a legume, stupid, by the leaves. See how this is a rounder leaf? How these guys look? See how these guys look kind of like a pea leaf? That's not necessarily always you're gonna see on a legume, but a lot of the times when you see leaves like these, it means that they're a legume. So the mimosa trees, the black locust, the honey locust, these kind of trees are invasive. So a lot of people are like, oh, don't plant them in your area because they'll grow everywhere. Well, you want legumes growing everywhere in order to put nitrogen in your soil, in order to feed the plants that you're otherwise wanting to grow there. So it's one of those things, why in the fuck not? Why would you not want an invasive species that does good for the soil, which in turn is going to make it to where you can grow all kind of good stuff. Now, I mowed this grass, I don't know, 4 or 5 weeks ago now, and it's up to the stage where it's starting to seed again. Now, I'm not upset with it being this high. So as far as I'm concerned, if it stays this high for a while, I'm going to just let it do its thing. Seed, fill in. Earlier in the year, all of this was kind of like over there. It was all exposed and sand and what have you. Now what I've been able to do this year is mow this grass enough to where I just had it mulched. So underneath, it was looking like this. It was more exposed. Now this is still not exactly the kind of soil that I want to be seeing here, okay? This property was tilled and tilled and tilled for years and years and years. So it's depleted the soil. What I'm trying to do is put back all of the nutrients and microorganisms that is necessary to have healthy soil again. So the first thing you need is this. Okay, this is mulch. This right here is just grass from cutting the grass and it mulching down. See how it's got a nice thick layer? This is the #1 reason why all of this green has come back in this year. So all that out there would otherwise be brown if we didn't create mulch to cover this soil. Okay, now soil is what you need to have the foundation to grow anything. If you have a healthy soil, you're going to be able to grow some good stuff. Right now there's a lot of microorganisms and nutrients that are lacking in this soil. I understand that. So what we need to do over time is introduce that stuff. First things first, things like black locust, things like those peanuts, introduce the good stuff back into the soil that otherwise have depleted over the years from cotton, from peanuts. So they're growing peanuts and cotton in this field roughly every other year, okay? So that was done, I don't know, maybe 20 years probably, at least 15, 20 years out here. The grass and all these weeds are essentially what grows in the soil first is what is supposed to feed the soil. Think about it as a scab on an open wound. So your body is going to create a scab in order to heal itself. All of the weeds that grow just automatically out of the ground whenever you have a scarred up soil, something that has been tilled up and damaged, that is like the scab. So what you're doing is essentially taking all of the scab off, ripping the scab off, and it's exposing all of the open wound, which is said soil. So the perfect analogy is that, you know, if you're healing and you have a scab, the best thing to do is leave that scab alone until it heals properly, not rip the scab off and then go ahead and oh, well, it's healing again. Ripping the scab off means good stuff because it means it's healing and doing what it needs to do. No, that's what we think about with modern ways of growing crops. We go in there and we till it all up. It's essentially ripping the scab off. So it may be fine for a year or two, even a couple of years if you do this, you know, put a legume crop in there one year and then your cash crop in the next. That will give you production, especially if you're spraying chemicals and I just heard a gunshot, so it got my attention. Spraying chemicals and chemical fertilizers and what have you. Went on a tangent. This is a pawpaw tree. Show you that. This is a Nanking bush cherry. Now see, this cherry is still alive, but he's not very happy because he's out here in the hammered sun. If I put him over there in the shade, like I'm going to put those other ones, they would have been a lot happier. This right here is an almond tree. I've got a few different almonds over there also to plant. I'm probably going to plant them in here because I had at least one of these died. This one right here died. That one over there is still hanging on, but there's not much life left into him. This right here is comfrey, but as you see, the ants kind of fucked my comfrey up. It looks like they went away. I came in here to pick some comfrey to put along other places, and I got ate alive by ants as soon as I stuck my hands in there. So I put this poison in there, and as you can see, this is a new leaf. Okay, the comfrey will come back. Now the thing about comfrey, you want to plant comfrey at each one of your trees. So each area, it's ideal if you can establish comfrey there, because what will happen is it will grow and die off. This right here introduces all kinds of good nutrients into your soil right there around your trees. It's got phosphorus, whatever the K is, potassium, phosphorus, whichever one of those are. And then it also gives you the nitrogen, and it's like a 2-5-5 or something of that nature with the natural fertilizer, if you will. So it's good stuff. I actually really recommend doing that comfrey on all of your trees. I've got some little rhizomes over there. I forgot to even mention that when I was showing you the kiwis. Essentially, when you dig these up, you can cut the roots into maybe finger size, and what will happen is they'll shoot off new roots and new plants. So if you get 1 or 2 plants established, over the course of the years, you can take those root clippings and then put them on everything. Have everything fucking established with comfrey. Ooh, look, I got random, see, after you mow, you can even see all these other things where the seeds will come up. So I've got things like this guy right here, which is not something that you really want, a gum tree, but you also have little muscadines all around here. That's pretty exciting. Now my muscadines are all up along here, and I did lose 2 of those. I actually replaced them with some Sugargate muscadines, which was supposed to be the tastiest of all. Over there I've got a indigenous sassafras tree, which is kind of cool. I got a couple of sassafras trees along in here, but this right here is the sassafras tree. Now one cool thing, it'll give you different style leaves. This is actually a muscadine vine right here, which is pretty cool because it's doing exactly what I want it to do up this tree. But what I was going to say, you've got different kind of leaves. So you've got on the sassafras that looks very similar to maypop leaves. This one's got it too, but it's also got these regular style leaves, the majority of them. So sassafras tree, go ahead and look that up. There's good stuff for you on that, especially with the bark and the roots. The couple of gobbler oaks, these are gobbler oaks that I had planted. I put them at each post, so potentially each gobbler oak will grow up and become these posts 10-20 years down the road, when these posts are obviously not going to be effective anymore holding up this line. Now, gobbler oaks. I've got another black locust down here, which hasn't done as well as out there because it gets shaded here at this point in time. So things, once again, like black locust and mulberries and say pecans, for instance. I mean, these are wild pecans that had essentially just grown up out of the ground here. I'm going to move those around somewhere over time. Some of the things that I had I've got a seed mix that I just tossed out here everywhere I put my my compost. I put compost around all of these trees and then put a little bit of a seed mix out there. But I believe the vast majority of those seeds are going to die off because it's so fucking hot still. Looks like something actually got to my walnut tree. That one over there had died, and then these ones are still alive, but they've been getting eaten up by little beetles. I found that interesting because I thought that the leaves actually scared away. There's something in it I thought scared away insects, but apparently whatever is eating on those doesn't give a fuck. It's like the honey badger of insects, you guys. Because all of these are looking kind of sad. Now I ended up putting this muscadine out here to grow up. This because I wanted to kind of use this as an experiment. Ideally, you don't want other plants growing up underneath your walnut trees because there is also something in the leaves that will kill off the plants. I was just curious if muscadines would grow underneath them, so I put that one there just to see. If it does, I'll plant a muscadine on each one of these along with comfrey. That's pretty much my plan on any of the large canopy trees. Plant muscadines around and also plant the comfrey. This is a gobbler oak or a chestnut one. I think that's a chestnut. It's doing good. Those trees, once again, were maybe a foot tall, the size of my finger when I planted it. So those are pretty amazing looking trees. I'm glad that they're doing their thing. Now I won't take you all the way out there and show you all those chestnuts and gobbler oaks and chinkapins that I had planted. Whew, I'm gonna lose my hat. But I will show you a couple of these guys out here. This is a Chinkapin oak. It's still kicking ass. The Chinkapin oaks, you ideally wanted them to be out here in the exposed heat. They probably weren't going to like it a whole lot. There's my sole that I lost. I need to glue that back on or take it back to REI and tell them my fucking sole fell off. See this REI? My damn boot. Sole fell off right here on camera. That's because it wasn't made properly. Now, usually Vibram means that you got good fucking quality, but unfortunately this fucking was just glued on there. Fortunate. I'm gonna cut this short because my shoe fell off that. This is Gobbler Oak. Chestnut, Chinkapin, one or the other. But all those trees that I had planted that you guys saw sitting in the creek, they're getting to be about this size now. Hopefully by next year they'll be up here. That's what I am hoping and praying and gearing towards, you guys. So I am out here at the Sovereign Community Farm out down here in Americus. Gonna plant the rest of those trees that I had in that bucket over there and make some fun times happen. Waffles, come on, buddy. Probably right into town. I need to get a couple of bags of compost. I've been putting that black cow, the composted manure on this stuff, and it seems to be doing pretty good on these guys. So I'd recommend that. And they're only about $5-6 a bag for a 50-pound bag. Now the trick is they only give you 42 pounds worth of net weight. So they say, oh, 50-pound bag. That's how these motherfuckers get you over there at the hardware store. They sell you a 2x4, but that shit's only 1 3/4 by fucking 3 3/4. So they fucking save 1/4 of an inch. And then they sell you a 50-pound bag of something and only give you 42 pounds of it. That ain't worth a shit. But either way, we're going to get it squared away. I'm going to plant the rest of those things. This is the walkthrough of Sovereign Community Farms. Love you guys. Take care.